The initial thought was to do a critique of Mr. H. The video wasn't terrible, but essentially he was criticizing someone for putting out a false story about Disney. So it should have been good, but in the video he's sort of like, listen, I hate Disney too, but I think you've got your facts wrong here. Well, if it's not really a Disney story, why did you put Disney in the title? It doesn't make any sense. And then you realize, listen, just put Disney in the title, do a hate video, and make money. Now, again, generally, Mr. H is okay, but I just felt like, well, this is not good. So I'll do the video eventually. It's about Predator, and it's a good story, but it got me to thinking about, which is going to be inevitable, we can't avoid this, that the MCU is so huge and so influential in filmmaking that there's eventually going to be, if not a clash, an intermingling with the Dune fandom with the MCU fandom. And Denis has made his feelings well known that he doesn't think a lot of the MCU films are very good. He thinks there are a lot of cut and paste jobs. And as we're going to see, there's actually good evidence of this. In fact, they outright admit it. So my thinking for this video is, okay, fine. If you want to do these kinds of videos, saying Disney screwed up or whatever, that's fine, but let's make it relevant. So what is the issue? Well, in this particular video, we're going to be looking at Black Widow, which I agree has a lot of problems. Now, generally speaking, I don't like the MCU stuff. I think they only have really one technically auteur, James Gunn, working for them. I think the first Avenger movie was not very good, but I think Joss Whedon on Age of Ultron actually did pretty good. But here and there, they do a great movie. Now, with Black Widow, it got severely criticized by some people, and it did get a good amount of praise from certain critics for just being a fun adventure action movie. So let me be consistent, because I've been very harsh on Mauler, who often does these very big hate videos on Disney. And, you know, that's him, and he tries to make a lot of money from it. And he's apparently pushing his plushies while he's doing the video. So now I wouldn't be this critical, except he did go into the politics of Black Widow, right? He wasn't just talking about the film itself, how feminism kind of distorted the movie in his eyes. And as we're going to see, that's actually not true. That's all phony. So if anything, what he should have criticized is Black Widow for not really being a feminist film. He's anti-feminist, and that's him. So we're going to hear Film Gob, who gives us quite an explosive expose on what Disney was really up to with Black Widow.
Guardian website says, in comments reported by The Pioneer, Martel, director of Zama, La Ciénaga, and The Headless Woman, told an audience at the Mumbai Film Festival that she received an email from Marvel for a meeting because they were looking for directors for Black Widow. She added that she had to sign a non-disclosure agreement about her meeting, but that Marvel and other such production houses are trying to involve more female film makers. However, Martel's distinct lack of enthusiasm for Marvel's output may have scuppered her chances. She added, "The first thing I asked them was maybe if they could change the special effects, because there's so many laser lights. I find them horrible. Also, the soundtrack of Marvel films is quite horrendous. Maybe we disagree on this, but it's really hard to watch a Marvel film. It's painful to the ears to watch Marvel films."
Does anyone have any orange slices?
Now, in the end, Australian filmmaker Kate Shortland was announced as Black Widow's director in July. Martel said that despite their attempts to recruit women directors, Marvel still mistrusted them in certain aspects of production. They also told me, "Don't worry about the action scenes, we will take care of that." I was thinking, well, I would love to meet Scarlett Johansson, but also I would love to make the action sequences. Companies are interested in female filmmakers, but they still think action scenes are for male directors. So she is confirming everything that we've known about Marvel Studios. Everything has to look the same, everything, has to look part of their universe, and is becoming more and more stale and uninspiring. And finally, Martel joked, "Just in case any of this is going to be on YouTube, I would love to make Black Widow." And we all...
So this is pretty shocking, and I tried for Black Widow to do my research, but I was not aware of this at all. I thought that, yes, they were looking at different female directors, but I thought either they were cooperative or they were just like, oh, yeah, I'm not interested. But she's laying out quite a devastating amount of facts here that they did not want her to direct the action scenes. And in the Mauler video, and I actually partly agree with him here, some of the action was well done, but some of the action was also poorly edited and not well done at all. But here's the thing, he was blaming the female director, and Martel has basically exposed and said, well, probably the female director did not do the action scenes, that was somebody else. And this really goes to what Denis was saying, that they don't really make movies that much. They just cut and paste the old movie, just attach it to the new movie. The director doesn't matter. The director's vision doesn't matter at all. They don't care. So even though they sold Black Widow saying, finally, you're getting a female voice. Finally, the female filmmaker speaks. They didn't care. I will say one thing, though, just to be fair to Disney. This just seems to be their general approach, period. They just get a director, but they already have a house style. It's like, okay, so they just really want a name attached to a thing, promote the thing, and get a paycheck. They don't really care if it's a male or female or whatever. I mean, it helps to tick off these boxes, right? Because they do have white male directors, and they're still using them. But then they include these other people, but they don't really matter. They already have a framework. I would defend them a little bit that this is just a general procedure, right? Because they did this with Edgar Wright, and he's a white man. They told Edgar, well, we want this, this, and this. And he was like, well, I really can't do that because then it's no longer my film. And he walked away. He still got some money, right? He doesn't feel bad about it. He doesn't talk about how bad Marvel was, but we kind of knew what happened. He wanted to do very much his auteur thing. He worked on this for years. He was really excited. And then they were like, sorry, doesn't seem like you're going to do the house style. So you can criticize Dune. Listen, Dune has its flaws, but I think Denis was proven right. This is basically a lot of copying and editing of other people, and the director is kind of just a name. They do some important things, and she does concede that they wanted her to work with the actress closely, ScarJo, but they essentially just did want a name. They just wanted a female name, put it on the poster, and then make money. They didn't really care about any artistic integrity or really having a genuine female voice in the movie. So Mauler is basically correct. This thing is a mess. I agree with him, but I don't think it's as bad as he says it is. I give it a 6.5. I think it's above average. I would recommend seeing it. It is a stupid, silly, goofy action movie, but Film Gob, as always, has really done an excellent job, and it's like, yeah, this is shocking. I don't think this has really been given as much prominence as it should be. Is this really so shocking? I mean, some people were offended what Denis said, but well, apparently he was right. Whatever you want to say about Dune, it has definitely a much more distinct style than a lot of MCU films. You can still like them, but they just do seem to have a very generic character and don't want to move beyond that. And unfortunately, they're suffering for this in the box office, which they deserve. If they're not really going to evolve or move beyond their house style, they deserve to be punished. And if they're really just play acting this, we don't want racism and sexism, but they're doing basically racism and sexism behind the scenes, then I think it's right to call them out. And unfortunately, she's confirming, yeah, a lot of this is just propaganda and nonsense. They're not really interested in, quote, diversity. Thanks for listening.